Hi dear students, today we're going to talk about the spoilage of sugar-based products. Sugar as well as sugar-based products are find to be very common in our day-to-day life. We come across different substances such as chocolates, sucrose, which mainly includes the cane as well as the bean sugar, molasses and syrups, maple sap, honey, candy, as well as jams. The number of sugar products that we come across in our life are being found to be varied. Now we have this sucrose, which has been obtained from sugar cane, and you have molasses and syrups. Molasses are usually a black treacle. It's a viscous product resulting from refining sugar cane or sugar beets into sugar. Then you have another products like maple sugar, which has been derived from the maple leaves. Somewhat, it's not prevalent over here, but in various European countries where the maple tree is prevalent, you can see the maple sugar. You have honey, which is quite familiar to every one of us, and even in the honey, sometimes spoilage could happen, though we consider honey to be as inhibiting the bacterial growth. Then we also have candy. Then, now let's explore what are the types as well as the factors influencing the growth of microbes in sugars. The high sugar products have been discussed in this chapter, and they are mainly referred to as chocolate, sugar, confectionaries, liquid sugars, sugar syrups, as well as honey. And the products grouped in the sugar confectionery category, it mainly includes the hard candy, soft gummy candy, caramel, toffee, licorice, marzipan, creams, jellies, as well as the nougats. Now, something which we need to note is a common intrinsic factor which is associated with the high sugar products is their low water activity. And usually, because of the low water activity, it inhibits the growth of most of the spoilage as well as the pathogenic bacteria. But certain osmophilic yeasts as well as the xerophilic malts do grow in these sugary substances and cause spoilage. And usually the water activity of for high sugar products is in between 0.20 to 0.80. And we can note that in addition to the water activity, the stability of this high sugar products is also influenced by pH, processing, as well as the storage temperature and the presence of preservatives. What are the different types of sugars? The most common type of sugar that we come across is sucrose, and that is something which is widely distributed in nature. But in addition to this, we can also have dextrose, lactose, fructose, etc. as sugars also. And recently, we can also see that various polyols such as sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, and maltitol they have been used in replacement of the sugar in sugar-free confectionaries as well as chocolate products, as well as many other food products. So, though we commonly consider sucrose as a natural sugar, various other sugars are also being replaced in the sugar-free substances which we use daily. And today, now in this section, I'm talking about the chocolates, the most wanted and craved chocolates. Usually, they have a water activity of about 0.40 to 0.50, and a finished chocolate may contain about 12 to 58 percentage cocoa butter, 20 to 35 percentage cocoa solids. You might have sometimes 0.5 to 7 percentage milk fat and 3 to 14 percentage fat free milk solids and up to 55 percentage of sugar. But if you're having an unsweetened chocolate, you have 0 percentage of sugar. And one thing that we have to notice, in order to develop the chocolate flavor, it is usually the finished chocolate is usually been associated with cocoa beans. The cocoa beans is normally been fermented, and the desired flavor of the chocolate is mainly being given by the fermentation of this cocoa beans. Now, sometimes this cocoa beans might get contaminated with certain microorganisms as soon as the pod is opened, and the beans comes in contact with the hands as well as the tools of the workers. Then the leaves, insects, animals, soil bags, as well as the wood of the fermentation boxes, and sometimes this cocoa will get contaminated. And a natural fermentation of the cocoa will also happen using microbes such as yeast, acetic acid, and lactic acid bacteria. And it is this fermentation that gives the flavor to the chocolate. Usually, after the fermentation, the beans are usually sun dried and mechanically dried to a moisture content of about 6 to 8 percentage. And naturally itself there will be certain microbes I told you, and it can be enterobacter, micrococcus, flavobacterium, yeast, as well as molds. But once the desired moisture range is obtained, proper handling, transporting, and the storage of the dried beans will prevent the outgrowth of these molds on the surface of the beans. So normally they would be present, but once you dry them and you process them, and if you give a proper handling, the overgrowth of these microbes are being prevented. But we have found that in chocolates, sometimes certain microorganisms such as salmonella happen to enter into the outer shell surface of the bean, and they can be introduced also to the bean's outer surface through any of the early handling steps, like when you are removing cocoa pod to the packaging. In any of these steps, salmonella can be uh, incorporated or could infiltrate into the chocolates. So another step called the roasting step. The chocolates have been roasted. And in this roasting step, it's a thermal process. It is unique to each chocolate manufacturer, and it is a critical control point step which will inactivate the salmonella and other vegetative bacterial pathogens. And roasting will serve a twofold process. It kills the bacterial pathogens such as salmonella, and it also modifies the flavor precursors which have been developed during the fermentation. Now, these are some of the infestations of salmonellosis associated with chocolate, which has been reported at different times. And the major contributor of the chocolate spoilage is mainly salmonella. So the contamination of these chocolate products can be controlled by different steps, either by using validated roasting conditions as we mentioned earlier, selecting ingredient suppliers with desired food quality or safety programs in place to prevent contamination, using ingredients that meets the company's microbiological specifications, testing the ingredients for spoilage as well as pathogenic microbes, and also controlling the production environment to prevent the introduction of pathogens as well as preventing the post processing contaminations. So I think the spoilage of the chocolates, and what is the most common spoilage causative agent, that is salmonella, and that can be prevented by the methods such as roasting as well as the choice of ingredients which are good for the which could prevent the contamination, as well as testing of the ingredients as well as preventing post processing contamination could also prevent the spoilage of sugary components such as chocolates. Thank you for now. We will be continuing in the next sessions.